Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We're here with Chelsea Bryan. We're here to talk about navigating the creative landscape of acting. I'd like to tell you, first of all, I appreciate what you've done for creatives here in New Orleans because you've created something pretty special for actors here in the city. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, I co-own the Actors Apothecary with my best friend and business partner, Sylvia Grace Krim. And we have hopefully built a communal hub for the performers in New Orleans. So we have a black box theater, and we're also a taping studio. We edit, we pull footage, do career consultations, classes, a little bit of everything. Before we started the Apothecary, there really wasn't a safe space where actors could go and get anything done. You
Right.
know, there were a few people who were doing taping like in their houses,
Right.
which, as a woman was not always
Yeah, it's not-
feeling, it wasn't great just to go to a random person's house. And,
Absolutely.
But we wanted somewhere where we could really support our fellow artists because we have such a large film community here in New Orleans and so many actors, and we just didn't have a lot of the resources that other hubs like Atlanta or New York or LA had. And I felt like it was time that we had something to give back to the fellow performers.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, I feel a lot about that way with music as well, which is, part of what Elation is here. We did the same thing on that side. But I feel like as a whole, just having someone create a culture in these entertainment spaces is what's needed down here.
Oh, yeah.
No one's utilizing all the talent that we have and actually almost creating a union in a sense.
Exactly. One of the things that's the most frustrating that I hear, and a lot of us hear a lot, is when people come here to use our resources or our tax incentives, and they're surprised by the local talent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like, I'm not surprised. I mean, there's talent everywhere,
Right.
not just New Orleans or big cities, but there's just lack of support. And so I think a big thing that Sylvia and I try to talk to people about, and we have conversations, and I'm sure it's like this in the music industry as well. If one of us succeeds here, we all succeed.
Right.
And so it's very important for us to really surround each other and lift each other up.
Absolutely. Well, collaboration on all fronts for entertainment is what's needed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all don't progress or move forward without each other's help. And I think acting especially, there's production, there's drivers, there's caterers,
Oh, yeah.
there's so many people down the line that have jobs that don't get the credit on the screen or don't get the notoriety and or even the union help at this point. But at least it's good to have everything back in order where we can get working again.
Oh, absolutely. We are all ready to get working again.
How you want to tell us a little bit about the strike and your feelings on it and how you think
Absolutely.
it ended?
I definitely think the strike was necessary. I am very appreciative of the Writers Guild for kind of paving the way
Right.
and staying strong.
Right.
Because it gave our union, SAG-AFTRA, it gave our union the bedrock to stay strong, stay on the path. And at that point, honestly, we had not been working. Everything else had, all the series had stopped. Everything had stopped. So we were already ready kind of to put up a fight.
Right.
And I think one of the things I would hear the most from other actors was that they were ready to sink their teeth in, really anchor down, because we're used to struggling.
Right.
Artists, we've always had to do side hustles.
100%.
So we're just like, okay, I'll go wait tables again.
Right.
I'll I started building furniture again, like doing random things all over the place.
Building furniture, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got real ADHD. I was, sewing masks for people before, building furniture, helping handyman work. I was like, do you need someone to paint your walls or fix your drywall? I can do that. But we were used to that. And so it was no skin off our backs to really go the distance with this.
Right.
And I honestly am not 100% happy with where we landed, just because I feel like a lot of our stunt performers got kind of got not the best deal in this agreement, as well as other Teamsters and our crew members. But I don't know if we would have gotten anything better.
Right. Well, with every negotiation, there's always something that gets left off, hopefully on both sides, which makes a good negotiation in the end.
Exactly.
No, I understand what you mean. I mean, I definitely, the people who have the least amount of support were the ones that were kind of left out of the situation.
Oh, absolutely. And people don't realize, I think one of the most frustrating things was hearing people who aren't in any artistic industry, but specifically film industry, post things or make comments about, oh, these actors are just are greedy, and I'm like, you know, we're auditioning for every job, every paycheck. We're constantly trying to get. It's like going to interview for a job.
Right.
6 times a week,
right.
And you don't get paid for that. You're memorizing lines, which was another
thing. And you
thing.
might do the same interview 6 times and still not get picked.
Exactly.
And
then what? You maybe get lucky. You're on set for a day, maybe a week, and then that might be a nice little paycheck, but that has to keep you going until the next one.
Right. And those big hubs. I mean, I didn't really learn any of that until I went to LA, and I started doing productions for music videos and short films and stuff like that. And you really learn that your waitresses, your backline people, the people in your everyday life that are just working their everyday jobs, or the people that you end up hiring for your film and this and that, and everybody's struggling trying to make that dream happen. And LA's not cheap. So
no, it's not.
So to make really not a lot of money, work a lot of hours, and then barely be able to survive is something that you have to be willing to do if you want to be creative.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where it really roots out the people who are there like, oh, I want to be, this is glamorous. I want to be famous. You're doing that. It's not glamorous at all. Waiting on set for 12 hours or learning all of the things that go into it, not glamorous, but also 98% of the people in our industries are those people who are struggling and hustling.
Right.
So we do have our fortunate few, our A-listers in any industry that are making a lot of money and that this doesn't affect as much.
Right.
But most of us are pretty blue collar, and we're just trying to make a living doing something that we love.
Absolutely.
Which is a risk in itself.
100%. Well, what made you love acting in the first place? Have you done any acting yourself?
So, yes. So, I've been acting for 14 years now. Or I should say 35. My whole life I've been that child, a little bit of a performer. But I grew up in Homa, and they just didn't have a lot there that supported the arts. So I didn't really get to do a lot in school or growing up. I did what I could. And then right out of high school, I had no idea what I was going to do. I bounced around with majors. I was a creative writing major because I did write a lot growing up. Pre-law, thought I would be really good at performing in the courtroom. And then ended up, life happened, and I got pregnant and had my oldest when I was 20. And at that point, right after I had...
Life-changing.
Life-changing.
Yeah.
The life-changing.
I had my first at 35, so I couldn't imagine the 20.
Yeah, 20 years old. I think about that now. I'm like, how did I don't know how I did it, especially the anxious person I am now. But I remember one day driving to this temp job that I despised, and my daughter was 6 months old, and hearing on the radio something about auditions or acting in New Orleans, and I just had this epiphany that my life was not over. And what kind of, because at that point...
What a creative moment, you know?
My life's not over. Well, because everyone tells you when you have a baby young, especially in the South, that's it, life's over.
Right.
And so that's how I had resigned myself to this. And when I heard that, I just remember thinking, I can still, like, is that the example that I want to set for my child, that their existence was the end of my life, and that
Right.
if something happens to you that's unexpected, that you can't continue to follow your dreams and do the
Right.
things you want to do. And so I went to that audition and then ended up booking. And then for a while, I was driving back and forth from Houma to New Orleans twice a day. I was in theater. I switched my major. I went to Delgado and I did a theater major. So I would drive out, drop my kid off at daycare in New Orleans, go to college, drive back to Houma, work a couple hours there,
Wow.
then drive back and have rehearsals, and then drive back at night. And I don't know how I did it, but I did it for a while and then ended up moving with my little one. I was a single mom, and I moved with her to New Orleans, and then just started auditioning and doing film, and met most of the people I consider family
Right.
today through film school and just getting close with the film community in New Orleans.
So it's funny how creatives do that. We create families around us from people that we just, I feel like when you get into a certain creative realm with someone, that it's almost it attaches to your heart or your mind. It's a different attachment. I don't know how to explain it, because I mean, there are guys in LA that I probably did 1 or 2 sessions with, but in a really creative aspect, and we'll be friends forever. Even if we don't ever talk for 10 years, we'll run into each other, and that attachment never leaves.
Well, when you think about it, sharing your art with someone is so vulnerable. You're so vulnerable when you're sharing a part of you, that creative part. And I feel like when
Because you're open at that point.
You're open, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's that trust.
Right.
And there's also that support. I'm very lucky where my family supports me in my endeavors. But there's a lot of people I know that, I mean, now even in our 30s, that are
Right.
like, their parents are like, when are you going to get a real job?
Oh, yeah.
And just, constantly coming down on them.
Absolutely. I definitely got the side eye with music, It definitely were a lot of, what are you doing?
100%.
But, you can't explain the love, just like you can't explain the love of a child till you have one.
Exactly.
I always heard, it's a love that we can't explain. You'll have to find out. And now I know exactly what that means,
100%.
But kids can be motivating too. So I'm glad that, it picked you up a little bit, and you decided to just keep moving.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I wanted you to share a little bit about your story, about your productions and things that you've done. What's the thing you're probably most proud of that you've done?
I think the production that I am most proud of, and I think Sylvia would agree, is we did a production called Inner Child, which was an original work. And so we had the first production we ever did at the Apothecary was last year. It was our queer cabaret. It was for Pride Month. And we got all of our queer artists together. We put out a huge casting call. Whatever you want to do, spoken word, acting, singing, drag, whatever. And we put that on. And then the proceeds that we got from that, we had each picked a foundation. And one of the artists that we met was Danya Asante. And they were an incredible musician. We had listened to their album, and it was so emotional, such a voice on them. And a few weeks later, they came up to us and asked us to read. He'd come up to us and asked us to read his script. We get that a lot, especially anytime you open a studio or
Right.
anything. Everyone's
Yeah,
like,
right.
you want to read? And we always try to take a pass when we can. And so we sat down and we read their script, which is Inner Child. And it was incredible. It was so moving. It was about growing up Black and queer in Chicago and in the education system, which was a huge theme within itself. And we didn't know how we were going to do it.
Right.
But we were like, yeah, we'll put your play on. We'll do it. We'll find a way. We have this stage. Let's do it. So Sylvia and I we helped with the casting. We were stage hands. We were stage managers. We were doing everything, helping to get our costumes together. Met an amazing group of actors that came through. And we did 3 runs of the show, or 3 nights of the show, and sold out every night. And heard so much positive feedback about the production, the work, how it made people feel, changing opinions of some people, which was not expected, but was a beautiful byproduct. And
is it based off a true story?
It was their story
of
growing up, and it was, and they also played themselves. Well, the character that's based on themselves, and it was that in itself was very hard for them, and we kind of helped coach a little bit. Because that's hard playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were directing, and directing yourself is something that's incredibly hard. So we were so proud of that work, and it kind of set the tone that the Apothecary was a safe space for anyone who wanted to come do their work, all walks of life, all sexual orientation, race. Like, we wanted it to be like, you come to us. If other people aren't listening to you, you come to us. We're going to take a look. We're going to do whatever we can to help you.
Right.
And so that really kind of brought us so much pride and joy. And like I said, we got to meet the most beautiful people.
That's awesome. Well, when you do something that you realize affects people in a positive way, it makes things worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. What advice would you have for actors or producers or anyone who's wanting to get into the film industry, especially in New Orleans? Let's keep it in New Orleans. What would be your advice for your first step?
Well, first step is stop talking about it and do it. That sounds like you're like, oh yeah, we'll just do it. But no,
it's a big thing.
Make the step, whatever it is. Go book the class if you want to start getting into acting. Book an acting class.
Right.
The only thing holding you back is yourself, and that's coming from someone who does that very often. But if you're an actor, reach out to either other people that you know. Or if, let's say, you don't know anyone in the acting community. Go online, look for an acting class. Go on Instagram, go on Facebook, something where you can see if something's legitimate.
Right.
If someone's asking you to pay the money for representation, it's a scam. Stay away from that. Also, Sylvia and I, we do not charge people to ask us those things too. So if anyone ever wants to come to us and say, hey, I wanted to take this class, it seems sketchy, or this person said if I pay them $1,000 that they'll, put me on Nickelodeon, please come talk to us. But our producers and our filmmakers connect with other people in the film industry. Collaboration is key, and then start making stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the most expensive equipment. You don't have to have an A-list actor. We all have decent cameras in our pockets now. You can shoot something on an iPhone. Just go out there and do it, and then take a look at what you've done, figure out how you want to change it, and go out and do it again a little better, and just go from there.
Are there any public industry meets, like meet and greets, that are kind of open to the public to get involved?
So one thing, as far as for our actors and our writers, so we do monthly something called the Cold Reading Series. So people can submit, directors or writers can submit their scripts to us, and we pick a script every month, and the day of, actors can show up. It doesn't matter if you are a professional, been doing it forever, or you're brand new. You show up, you get cast, and then we do a staged reading so that the writers and directors can meet the actors, hear their work out loud,
right,
and the actors can have no problem getting on stage. Like, there's not going to be any limit or any blocks in the way of being able to go up there.
Gotcha.
So we have those. We are going to be doing in the new year a industry speed dating, where we're going to try to get a lot of crew members and actors and different people together and do a little networking event that's less stressful. So like 5 minutes at a time. So you can be like, hey, I'm an actor
Right.
and you're a musician, or hey, I have this. And then after, people can talk to whoever they want to. But there are things out there, not as much as I would like. We're trying to put a lot of those events on because there's not as many,
not,
you
right.
know. There's union events for people, but that's usually specific to the union.
Right.
So.
Well, and that's what I meant by public. So we've done a couple of things here at Elation with the Grammy Association, where we bring in and then allow the public to kind of come in and hear the panel talks and meet and greet and and participate in the industry. I mean, that's what keeps the circle going. So if we can all keep that collaboration and that movement, it keeps the current moving in a sense.
Exactly.
So well, awesome. Well, today I'd like to ask you one final question, which I like to ask everybody. What brings elation to you in your life?
I would say, as far as with my art, what brings elation to me is being able to be in a position to lift up other artists. I don't think I could have ever expected how much joy that being able to help and aid other artists in their own success, how that would bring me elation. I get so excited when someone calls me and says, hey, you coached me on that audition, I booked it. Or can we shoot this over at the Apothecary? Yeah, absolutely. They're stoked. Can we put my script on? That was amazing. All of that has brought me just as much joy as when I book something myself and have my own success. So that's been the highlight of the last 2 years of the Apothecary.
It's amazing what just a little information, can do for somebody who's, trying to work at something, and they just might be missing that one little final piece, and it just puts everything together for them, and a lot of people aren't willing to do those things because they're holding in the corners and they think they have to keep everything to themselves.
Oh yeah. People get very they're hoarding knowledge, and it doesn't help any of us.
No,
it doesn't help us. And when you are in an industry, because I don't know if it's the same with the music industry, but we don't get a lot of feedback, positive or negative. You just don't hear anything sometimes. Right. So when you have people in your corner that are like, "That was incredible. You killed it," that can just change so much about the trajectory of your day, of how you feel about yourself and in your art. When you just have a little bit of someone saying, I see how hard you're working, you're doing great, and I want to know more about what you're doing. Right.
I feel like music, we have very collaborative spirit, especially with writers and these writing camps that we're doing. I feel like we all kind of hold each other up a little bit, but we also know each other. So it's a little bit of a different, the random circles. Yeah, you might get a head nod or that was nice. That might be the best thing you might get from a producer if he likes your beat, But,
oh, yeah.
but hey, it gives you enough, to go off of. But no, it's true. We all need to collaborate and help each other, bring each other up. So that's great that's a part of your personality and your character, because it definitely helps the generation, it helps the culture, and it helps things move forward. So, well, thank you for that.
Of course.
Can you tell people a little bit about where they can find, you and your company, and give us your socials?
Absolutely. So our Instagram, we post everything on Instagram daily. So any events that we're having, any classes, anything going on, sharing other events. There's the WIFT Gala tonight that we're going to be going to, Women in Film and Television. So we blasted that. That's at the Actors Apothecary. And same on Facebook. And if anyone has any questions about acting or how to get into the film industry or wants to share their work, theactorsapothecary@gmail.com. And you can also reach out to me at Chelsea Bryan or at SG Krim on Instagram. That's Sylvia Grace Krim, my co-owner.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chelsea, for joining us today. And thank you for joining us today on the Elation Podcast, where we like to find exhilarating euphoria through collaboration and creation.
Thank you for having me.